missions, and I think that holds very much true for Wales as well. And so I think having the young people come over from Great Britain, from Wales, and from Scotland and Cornwall that are over in this group that are here now is very important to us.
If you want to be an astronaut, this is where you're trained in weightlessness. The pool at the Sonny Carter Laboratory is 40 feet deep and is the closest that you can get to weightlessness on Earth.
We get them down on the bottom and we weigh them out. Basically what we want to do is make them neutrally buoyant to where they won't float up, they won't sink down, and they won't roll to either side. Make it as close to being in space as we possibly can. Really, it's not even really a space walk, it's more like a space crawl, because everything they do is by hands. They have to be tethered off to everything. Otherwise, if they were to let go, they'd float off into space. These mock-ups that you see in the water are the same size that the real ones are in space. So this is as close to a zero gravity environment that how to get them to.
Even astronauts are awestruck at the experience of walking in space. Joe Tanner is half Welsh and so proud of his roots that he's flown the first Welsh flag in space. So far, he's been on 4 missions to the International Space Station.
You know, after my first EVA, spacewalking, I had a very difficult time finding the words to describe. For 30 days, I really couldn't talk about it. It was a special experience that was stored in a special place in me that I could go and access and relive, but it was very difficult for me to convey that experience to someone else. On this last flight, I actually got up a couple hours early and just paused by the window and watched the Earth go around. It takes an hour and a half to go around one time. So I got to the window at around Japan, and I stayed there until Japan came up again.
Makes you perhaps a little bit more humble in many ways. It makes you appreciate all the marvelous things that we have on Earth. Here I am flying in space, I'm an astronaut, it's absolutely incredible. And then I turned and looked in the other direction at the stars. They didn't look any closer. And I thought how much further we have to go to be able to explore space and truly make ourselves a spacefaring series of nations.
The drive to explore and conquer space goes on, even for the ISSET students. Each morning they work on a project which has been devised and will be judged by NASA scientists.
Each day we've had a specific assignment to do. It's about the geology of Mars, possibility of life on Mars. We have to do a slide presentation for the mentors here.
And today we've come to talk about the first all-Welsh robotic mission to Mars.
I think if you look at almost any discipline, whether it's music or whether it's science or whether it's sport, I think children identify themselves with their heroes, with the people that are successful and seem to be successful. I think maybe in Britain we have a little bit of this, don't show that you're too successful, do your homework without telling anybody. That's not like that in America. Here in America, people applaud success. If we could get one Welsh astronaut or a British astronaut, I think what that would do for education in children would be phenomenal. People would be running to study science. I had a letter just this week from Bill Swiatek, Girvan High School in Scotland. They've been on this program 2 years. Their physics entries, the amount of children who study physics is at 40% already. And this is what we see throughout all the schools.
This is the stuff of science fiction. As part of NASA's strategy for manned trips to Mars, scientists are attempting to create a plasma out of rocket fuel, which may reduce the travel time from 9 months to 39 days.
I think it's incredible. I think it's really, really good. It reminds me of Star Trek a lot. This is the future. It's really, really cool.
Well, it's actually the first time I've seen this sort of thing. I mean, Gareth was a bit surprised when I was taking loads of photos of it, but he's got Sky, so he's seen the Discovery Channel, he's seen this sort of thing. I've never seen this sort of thing before. I've read about it, but it's like, Gordon Bennett actually seeing one in the flesh with loads of smoke coming off it. It's like, wow.
Well, I'm quite stunned actually. I've watched Star Trek a number of times, and you hear about these things on there, ion drives and so on. And when you see something like this actually having been built and with a purpose to drive spaceships, it's it's beyond belief, really, that this sort of technology exists.
Science has had a pretty bad deal in recent years. It is rather frightening to walk into a bookshop and realise there are more books on crystal healing and astrology than on real fact-based science. The main thing is that science is an exciting occupation. It is also a creative occupation where people are actually inventing and designing new things.
What's really interesting is you look at the space station as a structure, think about what's required to live on board the space station. We have to have an atmosphere with air that we can breathe. The temperature of the atmosphere has to be controlled. We have to have a way of generating power, way of stowing food and things. All those things are critical if we're to leave low Earth orbit and either go back to the moon or go on to Mars.
This is where the International Space Station is assembled, and it's for authorized personnel only. The fact that the ISSET students are allowed a look is another indication of the value that NASA places on the tour.
But I think it's really important to show all of the children in Wales that there are tremendous opportunities for them. And so often as we're growing up, we have dreams of things that we would like to do, and we think that it's really impossible to be able to accomplish those dreams. But I'm here to say that, lo and behold, with time, persistence, and hard work, maybe those dreams can pay off. And I look forward to the future of seeing someone who was born in Wales flying in space.
Final highlight, a final privilege, the chance to visit historic Mission Control, the nerve center of the Apollo missions to the moon.
Looking behind me, there was all the VIP guests looking through the window, and then we were actually touching the buttons which the commanders actually touched, and the Apollo rockets went up, and I just sat and thought, oh my God, what are we doing here? It's amazing.
The engines are on. 4, 3.
I was interested in space, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to work in it. But now I've come here. The only problem is that there's so many different and interesting fields. I just can't choose which one that I want to do. I just want to do all of them.
I think this trip has definitely made me think more about what I want to do. Originally, I came here thinking a career in medicine, put the medicine side and the space side together. Something a bit like maybe medical research for the astronauts traveling to Mars.
Before, because I'm Welsh, I thought that I wouldn't be able to work for NASA. But I've spoken to astronauts and people who work here from other countries, and they said it's quite easy to actually get involved with NASA.
It's a bit silly, but I really want to touch the space shuttle, but of course if I had, it would have been contaminated, so I didn't, luckily. I mean, I'd hate it if it suddenly came on the news that the space shuttle had burned up for some apparent reason and they found a handprint on part of the wreckage anyway.
I'm a train person myself rather than planes, but it's still nice to see something that I've only seen so far in computer games and simulations.
I recently considered giving up the profession, but the whole of this project has made me really excited about going back to work. It's made me much more enthusiastic, and it's going to pay dividends big time. If all teachers could get this, and if all pupils could get this, the motivation would be huge. It's been absolutely wonderful.
Well, wouldn't it be a marvellous thing to think that one of these students could be an astronaut? Perhaps in the future one of these young people will be able to look down on us from a shuttle or from the space station. And I hope you'll send me an autograph or a postcard from there to remember this trip.
Picking up the set. Big shadow. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. And shut down. We copy it down, Eagle. Stand by T1. Stand by T1. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.